Hi, everyone. I'm going to assign you Charlie right now. By the way, amazing job, Charlie. I don't know if you can hear me. Met. Everyone. Met.
Hello.
Hi, hi. Okay. I'm trying to assign you to type. Okay, Charlie, I think I've just assigned you successfully to closed captioning.
Brilliant. Yep, I can see that in there. Okay, I'll type in there. Thanks very much, Freya.
Amazing. Thanks, Charlie. And you're a superhero in that other session. My goodness, you must be exhausted. So we have 12 minutes if you need to drink a strong coffee or something stronger. Great. Okay, I can see others joining in the room. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Freya. Great last session.
Today, everyone.
If I'd have done it as well as you, I know I wouldn't have.
Okay, I'm going to make some co-hosts here. So I'm going to make you a co-host. Lily, I'm going to make you a co-host. Okay. Fabienne, do you want to do a quick microphone test as you're kind of doing our intro while you're there? I think you're on mute.
So now it's okay.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to make you a co-host as well. Hopefully you're getting all my co-host requests. Yes. Great. And then, perfect. Annie is joining. Does anyone know who Annie? Okay, I've admitted everyone. Okay, perfect. Great. I think, let me just check who's here. So, Fabienne is here, which is great. She's doing our intro. Hooray. I'm here, which is great because we're doing the quiz. Hooray. And then can I check in terms of our breakout room leads? Have we got Britta? Are you with us?
Grisha will be joining in 1 second. I've just been speaking to her on WhatsApp, so it will be, 1 second.
Brilliant, thanks Lily. Shagan, I can see you've joined us. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Am I audible?
Ah, loud and clear. Great.
Oh.
Perfect. Rebecca, are you there? I can see you there. Rebecca? Oui, s'il vous plaît.
Je suis là. Ok. Rebecca, ton nom complet déjà?
Rebecca Ranji Ahmad.
Ranji Ahmad?
Ranji, oui.
Ranji Ahmad?
Rebecca Ranji Ahmad, oui.
Ah, ok. Ok. Ah non, non, faut l'introduction refuse. Mes notes ici, non. Ok, reste pareil.
Great, so I think we have everyone here apart from Britta who's joining in a minute. Can I check we have all our support? So Clara, I can see you there. Do you want to do a quick mic test, Clara?
Hello everyone, hola, hola.
Perfect. Lisa, do you want to go next?
Aloha.
Loud and clear. Lily, do you want to go next? Perfect. And Haley's also going to be supporting Fabienne. So Haley, just to check.
I'm here.
Great. Okay, I think we're all here. I'm going to be sharing my screen so no one has anything to do in the back end. Any questions or clarifications before we begin? Is everyone happy with what they're doing, the agenda?
Hayley made a good point in the chat, Freya. I'm not sure if you've seen.
Oh, I haven't.
It was just if we want to start the recording again, otherwise if we share it, it will be all of this as well. So we could pause and start again.
Perfect, great shout. Okay, brilliant. I think we're all set. Just one thing to mention is it might take me a little bit of time when we go into the breakout rooms, just to make sure the right people are in the right breakout. So if I could ask you just to wait before starting, just to make sure that your support person is in the room and that you're in the room and everyone has that sort of arrived in their breakouts. So maybe just give it kind of 1 minute or so, so that people can arrive, and then I need to make sure you're all in the right room. So it'll just take me maybe 30 seconds to check that Charlie is going to be with Rebecca and is going to be with Clara, that Elisa is going to be with Shagan, that Lily is going to be with Britta, and Hayley is with Fabienne. So just be a bit patient, but hopefully that will all work fine on the back end. Any questions or anything else anyone wants to check in on? And we have the wonderful Charlie here doing closed captioning. So Fabienne, or actually it's me, Fabienne, isn't it, announcing that at the beginning. So if people want to follow what's happening, there'll be closed captions.
Hey everyone, yeah, just introducing myself as Charlie and hopefully get as much of the French down as possible.
Thanks, Charlie. Also, Charlie, for the last an hour and a half, if not longer, has been doing translation non-stop from French into English and English into French. So it's amazing. Thank you, Charlie. I really appreciate you stepping in to do both these sessions. Great. And I think we also mentioned, you know, Clara, who's in the session with Rebecca, is also French speaking. So Clara can step in if needed as part of the discussion. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. If anyone does think of anything, you can private chat message me. But otherwise, I think we're set, right? Elisa, Fabienne, anything from you both? Happy?
Freya, we've got Belen now. We've got Britta now. Could we just check the sound for Britta as well?
Great, good idea. Britta, can you unmute and say something so we can check your mic?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Maybe, yeah.
You're a little bit faint, Britta. I don't know if you can move a bit closer to the microphone. And I don't know if your video works, but it would also be lovely to see you if it does. But if it doesn't, that's not a problem. Great. Lovely to see you. Brilliant. Just try unmuting yourself one more time and speaking with video. Let's just do another check.
Hey, hi. I am happy to meet all of you. My name is Britta, and I'm from Uganda. I'm a volunteer at Restless Development. Yay!
Perfect. Loud and clear. Brilliant. Thank you. I'm just going to make sure that all the people that need to be co-hosts are co-hosts in case anything is needed. Let me just do some checks here. Great. Okay, perfect. I guess one final thing to mention, I know that there are some colleagues joining from partner organisations who might want to be in the breakout group with the young person they've been supporting. If you are put into the wrong group and I haven't allocated you to the group you want to be in, if you leave your breakout and come back into the main room, I will be there and I can then put you in the room that you want to be in. So that's only for kind of supporting partners. So I think I can see Pauline there, for example, or some of the others. So if you're not a supporter, like a support lead, and if you're not a speaker, but you do want to be in a different room, then let me know in terms of the partners. That wasn't very clear, but hopefully that'll be fine. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now and I'm going to share my screen, and then the next voice that you'll hear will be, I think, Fabienne. So good luck, everyone. Looking forward to it.
Do you give me a top or just start when it's 3.5 on my clock?
Yeah, you still got 3 minutes to drink some more
Yeah,
coffee.
there are 3 minutes, yes.
Yeah.
And Fabienne, can you
27,
lower a bit your camera so we can see the entire face of yours? Great.
So here we see. So here we see Freya's
Can you see that okay, everyone? It's all worked, the share. You can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, Fabienne, if you want to do a brief welcome in a couple of minutes, then I'm happy to run through the chat and text slides, and then I'll hand it back to you to do a formal introduction. Does that still sound okay?
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. Maybe you can send me just a message also, and then I start.
Perfect. Great. And welcome to the many people we can see joining this session. Thank you so much for participating today.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and maybe some of you it is good afternoon or even good evening, depending on your time zone. But wherever you are, welcome and thank you for attending this session, the Deep Data Power Shift, during this 2020 United Nations World Data Forum. As you can see in the description, this session is co-organized by Restless Development, Accountable Now, Madagascar Initiative for Digital Innovation, and Action for Sustainable Development. Just I want to make sure that anybody here? Anybody hear me? Yeah, okay. Okay. This whole session is about leaving no one behind, and this is a very important theme this year, because when we talk about data for development, we generally think about great institutions, governments, ministries, or national statistic offices, and we always think of young people only as data user only, or sometimes only data consumers. And this session will highlight the work of young people from their own perspective. And it's also to prove that everyone's voice and everyone's actions count when we talk about data for development. We really hope this session will inspire you, the audience, to take action at your national level or your regional level, to challenge yourself first, but also change the dynamics around data. This session will be very interactive one. So how it's gonna work? First, the first 5 minutes, we're gonna have a short data quiz led by Freya from Restless Development. And during this short quiz, we'll be able to unpack issues around data and power. And this data quiz will be followed by a group scenario made of storytelling activity. So after the quiz, we're gonna split into 4 groups, and each group will be facilitated by one young person, one of which will be myself. And I haven't presented myself yet. I'm Fabienne Rafi-Dermirin from Madagascar. And the other 3 young person will be Shagun Sharma from India. We also have Brita Atusimire from Uganda, and another person from Madagascar too, Rebecca Ranjiamad. So after the data quiz, you can choose in which group you want to attend. What we do, as I said, what we will do inside within each group, each moderator will share with you a short story of their action or of someone they know. This will be just 5 minutes. And for the 30 minutes after, you'll be asked to respond to challenging questions regarding the presentation, of course. And your questions are also welcome. And after the 30 minutes, at the end, we're gonna reunite again for a final brainstorming session in order to see what you have gained from the presentation you've just heard, but mostly because we also want this session to be about actions. And just to remind everyone, in the right side of your screen, you can see all the participants during this session. So if you want to know more about one person, you can just click the name and their profile and their organization. And also their biography should appear right on your screen. So now we are ready to start. So we can start with the data quiz by Freya.
Thanks so much, Fabienne, and welcome everyone. Before we get stuck into the quiz, which I'm very excited about and hopefully you will enjoy, I wanted to just go through a few bits and pieces in terms of how we're going to coordinate this session. So for participants requiring closed captions or translation to French, you just need to click the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen, and that means you'll see our wonderful colleague Charlie, who's going to be translating throughout the session. As Fabienne said, we'll be moving into 4 breakout rooms for discussion during this event as well. And for one of those breakout rooms, Rebecca, who's going to be leading that part of the session, she'll be speaking in French. So for participants in that group, you will have closed captions where you'll be able to see the English translation. So if you're in Rebecca's group, in the breakouts, it will be in part in French. Do make sure you click that closed caption button at that point so you can follow what is being shared. Also, just to say that for the breakouts to work, you'll have seen when you join this session on Attendify, we asked you to join through the Zoom desktop app, I think is the technical word, but that means that we can then break everyone into different sessions. So if you join just regularly through Attendify, it means you might struggle to put you into 4 breakout groups. So just make sure that you came through the Zoom desktop app is the other thing I wanted to mention. Also, you'll see we have a chat box. So we really want this to be an interactive and participatory discussion for the next hour and 10 minutes. So please do use that chat box on Zoom to add your comments, share your questions, to engage in the discussion. You will see it at the bottom of your bar on Zoom. So if you are in the Zoom desktop app, you will see where that chat function is. Please use it. We want to hear from you. Also, we are muting participants on entry, but that's not because we don't want to hear from you. When you go into the breakout rooms for discussion, you will be able to unmute yourself to be part of that discussion, to share your perspective. So for now, you've been muted, but when you go into breakout groups, you'll be able to unmute yourself and participate fully. If you have any questions or concerns around any of that, please do write in the chat box, and I have some colleagues who'll be able to respond and help you with any tech issues. But hopefully that is clear. Great. Okay, so this is a very exciting part we're going to kick off with, which we've called the Big Myth Busting Data Quiz. So hopefully you can all see my screen. And we just wanted to share with you some questions around what you might know about data, some of the challenges, some of the gaps. And we have 5 questions for you, and you'll have 3 options to choose from. Answer A, B, or C, okay? So we're going to ask the question, and then can I ask you, if you feel comfortable, to share your answer in the chat box, so which answer you think it is, A, B, or C, so we can see, you know, what everyone in this group thinks in terms of some of the different questions we're asking. So hopefully that's clear. I'm going to start with question 1. So what does CGD stand for? Is it corporate generated data, citizen generated data, or centrally generated data? Do add your answers into the chat. Is it A, is it B, or is it C? Go for it. What do you think it is? I'm going to get the chat up as well so I can see lots of B's, lots of B's. I think you all know your stuff. Yes, it is B. So it is citizen-generated data. Now, this is defined as data that people or their organizations produce to directly monitor, demand, or drive change on issues that affect them. So that's what we mean by citizen-generated data. And well done to everyone who ticked that and put B in the chat box. Question 2. How many people in the world have no internet access? Is it A, 1.2 billion? Is it B, 3.7 billion? Or is it C, 4.1 billion? So again, I'm going to open my chats to add your answers. I can see, I think, quite a few B's coming in there. I'll give you another 10 seconds. I can see an A, some C's. Okay, great. So the answer is actually B, which is 3.7 billion. And in sub-Saharan Africa, 1 gigabyte of data, just 1 gigabyte of data, is enough to stream a standard definition film for 1 hour. And this costs, this 1 gigabyte, nearly 40% of the average monthly wage, which is crazy. So that's quite a staggering statistic, thinking about our access to internet. Moving through, there's the tick. So question 3, which region of the world has the largest number of online users? So which region of the world has the largest number of online users? Is it A, Asia, B, Europe, C, North America? Do add your answers into the chat. I can see some A's, I can see some C's coming through. Yeah, more A's, another C. I'll give you another 2 or 3 seconds to add your answers in the chat. Great. Okay, let's see what the answer is. It is Asia. As of 2018, Asia was the region with the largest number of online users, and that's been over 2 billion at the latest count. Europe was then ranked second with almost 705 million internet users, which is like a massive gap. So well done to those of you that got A, Asia. Question 4. What percentage of data in the world has been created in the last 2 years? So what percentage of the data in the world has been created in the last 2 years? Is it A, 20%? Is it B, 60%? Or is it C, 90%? Add your answers now in the chat box. Lots and lots of Bs, a C, a couple of Cs coming through. Another few seconds. Okay, lots of people saying B, C. Okay, great. I'll tell you the answer. It's actually C, which is 90%. 90% of data in the world was created in the last 2 years. And it's projected to increase by 40% annually moving forwards. Just check. Oh, there's our green tick. Great. Okay, so the fifth and final question. Okay. So bad data or poor data quality costs US businesses how much annually? So bad or poor data quality costs US businesses how much annually? Is it A, 80 billion? Is it B, 200 billion? Or is it C, 600 billion? Add your answers into the chat box now. Lots of Bs, lots of Bs, lots and lots of Bs. Everyone's agreeing on this one. Everyone's saying B. No A's, no C's. Oh, is there a C? Someone put a C. Okay, another couple of seconds. Let's see what the answer is. It's actually C, which is staggering. 600 billion is lost because of bad or poor quality data by US businesses each year. So this makes me think, could citizen-generated data perhaps help to reduce these losses by producing high, good quality, strong data that could monitor changes or track impact or inform different decisions that these businesses are made? I think perhaps it could. Anyway, that's enough from me. That was the big development data quiz or something like that, which hopefully has got you thinking about some of these massive gaps around data and power. And I'll hand it back to Fabienne, who will just repeat how we're going to run this next part of the session in different breakout groups. So thanks everyone for listening, and back to you, Fabienne.
Fabienne, I think you're muted.
Okay. So as I said, we're gonna split into 4 groups. So those who, I will be moderating the first group, group 1. The second group will be animated by Shagun Sharma from India, and the third by Brita from Uganda, and the last one with Rebecca Ranjiamal, also from Madagascar. So you can now choose the group you want, and we're gonna split. We'll still stay in Zoom, but it's just a breakout.
For 1 minute, we're actually going to put you into breakout rooms, but it just takes a little bit of time for us on the back end to make sure that everyone is in the right breakout. So just bear with us for 1 minute or 2 minutes. We'll have you in those breakouts soon for a bit more of an interactive discussion. Sorry, I put you all in the one breakout room. Bear with me, I'm going to try again and put you in 4 different breakout rooms. Apologies, you're all back. We're having trouble with the breakout rooms. We're going to go for attempt number 2 to put you back in the 4 breakouts. Bear with my technology woes. For those of you still here, you should have been assigned to a breakout room. So there should have been a message that came up on your screen asking you to join a breakout room. You could click. Just to remind you that you need to be joining via Zoom desktop app, and then that feature is enabled, and then you can join a breakout room. for those who've just joined, trying to do breakout rooms. Great, there should be a notification on your screen saying join breakout room if you've joined via Zoom desktop app, and then we can put you in one of our 4 breakout groups. So just make sure you've joined through Zoom desktop app and we can put you in a breakout room. Great, I can see many of you joining now, so I'm assigning you to different rooms. Just a reminder for those still in this main room, you should have received a notification to be moved into a breakout room if you join via the Zoom desktop app for this session. And then I'm assigning people into different breakout rooms for more of a discussion. Great, I can see many of you logging back in so that you can access breakout rooms. Thanks so much for doing that. Again, for those of you just joining, you need to log in through Zoom desktop app and then we can put you into a breakout room for the discussion. to those of you joining us a little bit late. Just to let you know what's happening, we need you to join via Zoom desktop app. There's a notification on Attendify. You join through that desktop app on Zoom, and then we can put you into a breakout group. So we're having 4 breakout groups of discussion. So if you connect through that app, which it tells you about on our Attendify page, then we can make sure that you're connected into a breakout room. And thanks so much for joining. Just another announcement for those of you in the main waiting room. I can only assign you to a breakout room, I'm afraid, if you connect through the Zoom desktop app, and I can see many of you doing that, which is brilliant. So I'm assigning you to different breakout rooms for the remainder of the session to have a discussion. So please connect through the Zoom desktop app, and then I can put you into a breakout room. Thank you, and thanks for joining. Thanks to many of you who are joining us. As a reminder, if you can join via the Zoom desktop app, then we're going to put you into breakout rooms so you can have more of a discussion. I can only do that if you join through the Zoom desktop app. And thanks to many of you who have joined through the app, I can see that you're now in different breakouts, which is great. Thanks again to those of us who are just joining. As mentioned, we are doing this part of the session in breakout rooms to have more of a discussion. So I need to assign you to a breakout room, but to do that, you have to join through Zoom desktop app. So as you'll see on the Attendify page where you joined, it requests that you join through a Zoom desktop app, and then I can put you into a breakout room. So thank you for joining. Do join via that app, and then we can put you in a room for some more discussion. Thanks again. back, everyone. So we tried very hard to make that session work in terms of breakout rooms and having a participatory discussion and a chance to talk more about real experiences that young people have had in terms of collecting data and some of those challenges. But I was receiving lots of feedback from many of you that it just wasn't working. People couldn't access the breakouts, or it just was really difficult to be able to run the session in those 4 different rooms. So thank you for those of you that have bared with us during our attempts to do breakout rooms and have smaller group discussions. But I think what we're going to have to do is bring everyone back into this main group and try and unpack and talk about some of the different questions as a bigger group. We still encourage you to please write your comments and your questions in the chat box, although we're all back together again. We do really want to hear from you. We don't want this to just be us talking at you. I know it's been 3 days of lots of panels and events at the Data Forum, and we'd love this to be a chance really to hear about your experiences and your reflections. So for this part of the session, now we're all back together, really to encourage you to write your comments, questions, anything you want to share, either in chat, or you can also raise your hand. There's a little feature at the bottom of your bar in Zoom that has reactions. You could raise your hand, you can give me an indication that you'd like to share. But maybe to kick us off, given that we're all back together, I'd like to invite the 4 young people that were leading those sessions to tell their stories and to describe their experiences of generating or accessing data. I would love to kind of firstly perhaps address a little bit of some of the challenges that you found and what some of those real issues have been for you very practically, being out there trying to generate data or evidence on different issues that you found in your communities. So what have some of those real barriers or challenges been for you? Maybe if we could start there, and then we could talk a bit more about solutions and actually what we can do to strengthen youth-generated data opportunities. So yeah, some of those challenges, and I'd love to hand over perhaps to Fabienne. Do you want to kick us off? Some of the challenges that you found in Madagascar trying to generate data. I'd love to hear a couple of thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Freya. My challenge was really that I was motivated to collect the data, but at the same time, I was also, I didn't really have the courage to continue because I know that the data I collected will never be enough. It will never be it will never highly represent the reality in my country. That anyway, even if I collect data about a specific topic, I know in my head that I still have to partner with government for this data to be complete. And this is almost burdensome for me, but it's also good because you are very happy with yourself because you can feel that you achieve something for your own country, so you make a start. So that's for my part, most of the time.
Great, thank you, Fabienne, for those reflections on some of those real issues and challenges you had as a young person wanted to collect that data in Madagascar. Can I maybe hand it over to Britta, who's joining us from Uganda? Britta, could you reflect perhaps on some of the challenges you've experienced trying to collect data in your community on different development projects? What have been some of the real issues you've faced?
So my biggest challenge was the biased data, that most of the data we collected from the community was not very accurate, as people find it so hard to share their personal information and they keep giving you half-baked data, so it is not very complete, and it was a bit hard to get to them that deep down. And yeah, though we managed to actually break some down and get a lot of information, whereas some were not able to share it all. And also, there was a problem of high expectations from community members, that people do not want to share information and give data without something in return. So they expect you to give them something before they could sit and spare 2 minutes to speak to you. So it was very challenging because we are not supposed to give people any resources like money for them to give us information that we believe is going to be good for their communities. Yeah, so I would suggest that we do more of advocacy and sensitization, that people can be able to share data for their own projects without really expecting so much to be given things in return. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Britta, for sharing those reflections. And it's a really interesting point I think you raised around trust and, you know, people being willing to share their data in what you're gathering. And I can see there's also a question that's come through from one of our participants, which perhaps touch a little bit on this issue about actually, you know, governments and other decision makers actually trusting this data that's being generated by young people, and that being a bit of a challenge. You know, often governments put their trust in perhaps academic research or national statistical offices, but actually building that trust, I think, is a really key and important point. And maybe at this moment, I could call on Shagan, who is doing some really interesting work in New Delhi in India. And I know this is something that you've been working on, Shagan, in terms of with the government and around the data you're collecting, how you can kind of build in that trust into the information that you've been gathering. So Shagan, I'd love to hear from you either around that issue of trust, but also around some of the challenges that I know you've been facing in gathering that data and making sure that it's used and accessed by those taking decisions. So Shagan, I'd love to hand over to you at this point to reflect on those questions.
Thank you, Freya. So in my work in the community where I work in New Delhi, as Freya mentioned, I work with young people to collect data on gender-based violence. And through my interactions, as I shared in my breakout also, that it's important to invest in training young people in data collection, in data analysis, so that they can act as government's frontliners for design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of the policies and scheme, and so that they seep into the communities, you know, so that they're not just data reports, they're data which are actually converting into programs. And we have to understand that we have to focus at the community level interventions through communities youth engagement, and that is possible when governments and civil societies partners together to train and hire these young people. And to also, so when we start training them, when we start to engage with them, we kind of build our credibility of data. When we standardize it, we also have the quality enhanced of what we are getting as inputs from various communities. And again, when we start investing in these young people from these communities, the confidence of the community in the government machinery and the programs also enhances, because now they feel people from their own surroundings are actually participating in something which will come back to them, or may not come back to them, but something which they feel like is going to impact their life. And that is what we need to focus on. Data has to be collected from the grassroots level to come back and help at that level to ensure there's higher accountability and there's higher transparency and higher faith of the citizens in that process of data collection and the schemes implementation. And again, this will further enhance the public service delivery of the government policies and schemes, which the governments and international agencies, focus on when they work on programs. That's what I feel we can do to overcome that challenge.
Great, thank you, Shagan, for such excellent and clear points based on your experiences kind of being out there and actually doing this, generating data, supporting communities to gather that. That's really great to hear. Thank you. I'd love to give a chance also for Rebecca, who's joining us from Madagascar, who's part of a really exciting initiative called the Development Alternative, where young people in Madagascar and Uganda are collecting data, but that's not enough for them. They're also turning that into a way to ensure accountability and advocacy from different development actors. So actually how these development actors are using funds, developing projects, they're collecting evidence and data to make sure that they're doing what they say they will. So Rebecca, at this point, I'd love to hand over to you to hear a little bit more about the work you're doing using technology in the community to track what's happening on different development programs, but also to hear some reflections, because it's not enough. You're not just collecting data, you're also engaging different development actors. You're also talking to them and trying to change their opinions on youth-generated data in Madagascar. So it'd be brilliant to hear a little bit more about your experience. And again, if there are kind of key challenges that you want to draw out from what you've been doing, it'd be really good to hear those as well. So I'd love to hand over to Rebecca.
Oui, merci beaucoup de m'avoir donné la parole. Ma plus grande pardon. Donc, mon plus grand challenge,
Just a quick mention, please, if you are not following in French, I know I can't follow in French, please click the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen where you'll see the translation for Rebecca. So if you would like to follow in English what she's saying, click that closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. Pardon, Rebecca, s'il vous plaît.
d'accord, merci beaucoup. Donc, j'ai eu la grande opportunité de faire utiliser l'application DevCheck et comme nous avons interviewé des paysans et c'était vraiment pas facile parce que nous avons dû sortir de notre zone de confort et les paysans, vraiment, ils ont peur des gens de la ville. Aussi, nous avons eu peu de considération de la part des responsables de projet. Nous avons été jugés non responsables, que nous ne sommes pas capables, que nous avons peu d'expérience. Et pour moi, c'était vraiment un très grand challenge. Et ils étaient aussi ma source de motivation. J'ai voulu changer cette image que, que la communauté, que les stakeholders ont des jeunes. Et lorsque nous avons effectué notre suivi avec DevCheck, après avoir fait nos comptes rendus, ils nous ont donné des retours très positifs. Ils nous ont dit que nous avons donné d'autres points de vue sur le projet et que nous avons identifié plusieurs problèmes et, et nos suggestions vraiment ont été ont été prises en compte. Et je peux dire que, que nous avons réussi notre challenge car vraiment nous avons reçu leurs considérations. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Rebecca. Thank you so much for raising again lots of really interesting points. And again, this idea that it's so important to kind of build that relationship with the community in terms of generating and gathering that data. It's not sort of a one-way process where you're just there extracting data, extracting information. It's about building those relationships and building that trust. And I think those are some really interesting points. I've also seen in the chat box, and thanks so much to many of you who are writing loads of great comments and questions. I'm trying to multitask with my screen so I can follow the conversation that's going on in Attendify. But there was a really interesting point around technology and using technology to kind of collect this data or to gather this evidence. And I think particularly the world that we're living in now through this pandemic, you know, that's become so important in terms of how we're using and applying that technology to gather this data, to gather that evidence, but also then to be holding these governments, decision makers accountable for what they're doing, how they're responding. And I would love to draw perhaps again on Britta here, because I know with the Development Alternative and the work that you've been doing in Uganda, similar to Rebecca in Madagascar, you've you've been using like digital technology. You've been using a phone with an app that's very new technology to kind of collect and gather this data and to record it publicly so people can see, you know, what you're tracking, what evidence you're generating. It'd be brilliant if you're happy to sort of spend a couple of minutes explaining, firstly, you know, how that experience was for you. Was this tech difficult to learn and to access, but also kind of the impact that that's had using this technology to gather that data. It'd be brilliant to hear some thoughts from you, Britta, if you're happy to come back in here.
Hey, I am happy to share. First, it was when we got the phones and we were told we're going to use an app to monitor, we were excited because initially data was monitored using questionnaires, using a lot of work. You have to write notes and ask questions, and you're taking notes. And sometimes in these communities, you do not have where to sit, and maybe it's raining. It was very hard. But when we got these phones, everything is on the phone. The questions are already set in for you in the app, and there are options of answers. So there are age differences, there are alternative answers, and generally the likely responses from people. So it was very easy for us to use. I must admit that the questions are there, and there's even space that can allow you to generate a solution to a certain problem you could have identified. But when we go to the community, and when you mobilize people and you've got a good number to interview, and you sit with this person and you tell them, we're going to have a short interview and I'll be taking answers or your responses using my phone. So the first question is, wow, how do you even do that? And then some people were saying, oh, you have phones, that means you have money. It was a funny bit. So people looked at us using the phones and expected us to really have so much money to give them after the interview. So it created a perception that if we're able to use the nice ones, probably we had a lot of money, which was not true. But they embraced it. I must say it's time saving. It is accurate, and it is really, really good. I would recommend that if people were able to adapt this method and use their phones, their available resources to collect data, it would be a good way to go. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Britta, for those really interesting reflections about sort of people seeing you with phones and then assuming that that was connected to money. It's really interesting about these perceptions, you know, from the community. And I can also see that there's a question that's come through in the chat box to all of you really, or whoever would like to respond, about were there kind of key factors or approaches that really helped to gain that trust. So very practically, how did you go into a community and start talking about these issues and gathering that data and evidence? You know, what were some of those key elements that were really important to do that? It'd be brilliant to hear from anyone around their experience. I don't know, Shagan, do you want to go, or Fabienne, one of you to respond on that question that's come through?
Yep, I can go ahead on that, Freya.
Yeah, go for it, Shagan.
So while working in my community, few things whenever I work with communities I focus on is that I look at people who are passionate in the community, people who are also trusted, like teachers, certain informal leaders who are very trusted in the community and who are passionate about doing something about the community, and who have a kind of good youth network, because these teachers and these informal leaders have a huge trust, and they're also very committed to where they work in the community on the areas they work on. So if you try and strategically find out these people, you have to do community walks to have a understanding of what the community is like, what kind of environment they live in. And then you will, when you start talking to people there, maybe randomly, or maybe you will find organizations also working there, and through that you start to build your connections with people through the community walks and interactions with other organizations, and you find out those key people who are living in the community and who are respected. Like, I work with a community's youth teacher who has been working here for like years now, and who has himself helped so many people get into good careers and train them into different aspects. And now young people now, especially them, along with other women, had so much trust in him because he has been working on different aspects in the community already for years now. To kind of rely on them, they have a personal, some people these people are sometimes looked at like sons or daughters of the entire community, whosoever you go and meet them with. That kind of relation we need to see. We need to find out such people to be able to build that trust when we go as some people from outside for working. So that helps. That helped me in my process.
Great, thank you, Shagan. And again, like really clear practical examples, which I think often get lost. We talk about data and power shifting as if they're these big issues sitting out there, but actually in practice, this is what it takes to shift that power back into communities and for young people to kind of lead on that. So again, really, really great examples. I'm very aware that we are almost at time and we still have a final part of the session that my colleague Elisa is gonna lead. So we will kind of end there, but I'd love just for each of our speakers who've joined us to respond to kind of a final question, if you like, just briefly. And that would be, we have quite a few governments hopefully joining us today in this session. We have official data statisticians and community representatives also participating, along with big international organisations, civil society networks. And we have a real mixture of participants who tuned in today to hear you speak. And I'd love you to end with kind of what your final ask would be to them, or what your kind of final recommendation would be in terms of shifting that power back into communities. What support you need in terms of the work that you're leading on, the data you're collecting, to have the impact that you want. So I want to give the final word to each of you to speak to those that have joined us in this session today and what you want to leave them with. So Shagan, let's start with you. What would be that kind of key message you want to share with viewers?
Please start engaging young people to get community level data. We have to look at micro level and not just macro level while designing and implementing policies. So I would recommend higher collaborations between authorities, international organizations, and civil society which work locally to ensure that there's higher accountability and higher citizen participation in this process, especially young people.
Brilliant, very clear call to action there from Shagan. Thank you so much. Rebecca, do you want to go next? Over to you, Rebecca. What do you want to say to everyone watching in terms of your ask, your recommendation?
Je pense que la communauté ne devrait pas avoir peur de s'exprimer et de parler aux responsables de projet, aux chefs de quartier et aux autorités, et que la communauté devrait toujours prendre ses responsabilités. Merci.
Perfect. Thank you, Rebecca. Again, a really good point about working with community leaders, understand who are in those communities, work through those people in community leadership positions to kind of access the people in the communities, to understand their issues. Really great practical recommendation. Thank you, Rebecca. Britta, over to you next.
I would advise and encourage leaders who are already in power to take on the idea of open learning, to be flexible enough to use technology as the new method that we can use to solve almost all these problems that are in our communities. Because young leaders and young people are so interested in technology. So if they can use it, they'll be able to capture so many young people who will be interested to be part of the movement.
Great, thank you, Britta. Again, great reflections about how we use technology and also that flexible approach, which so often is missing. We get caught up in these cycles of collecting data in very specific formats because that's what we've always done, but actually reassessing, readdressing, looking at different ways to do that in a more flexible approach, I think is a great recommendation, Britta. Fabienne, last but not least, over to you. What would be your kind of big ask recommendation?
Well, I have not that much experience with data collection, among communities, but the way I collected data was a little different, except when I was in prison. But what I want, and my message for government and the national statistic and all of you, the great institution, is to reinforce partnership with us, with civil society, because what we are doing is not for us, it's for citizens. And we are here to serve the people who elected us. That's why
my message.
And a really great message to end on, that issue of partnership. It's about being in this together jointly. It's not about a one-way directional relationship. It's about that partnership. So I think that's a great way to end this session. Fabienne, thank you so much. I'm going to stop here. Thank you again, everyone, for bearing with all of our technology challenges and really sticking with us for this hour. I'm going to hand it over now to Elisa, who's going to lead us in a final action-oriented part of this, this session. So Elisa, over to you.
Thank you, Freya, and thank you for our speakers and participants to bear with us. As Freya said, as you can see, we want this session to be about action, first with dialogue, but now thinking about what can we do next. We heard about very inspiring stories. Hopefully you got to hear a bit on the stories that you were, that speakers were sharing, but I want to challenge you a little bit more. I want to see how you can collaborate with your actions, since your position that you're in, the sector that you're working for, and spark the reflection in a personal and organizational way on how can we involve communities and shift the power, no? So my question would be for you, what do you need from other sectors to enable different approaches for the collection and analysis of data, such as citizen or youth-generated data? My friend Freya would share in the chat a Google Doc that is open to everybody that is attending this session. And it would be for you to fill out a little chart that you see there with your name and sector. You have the question there as well. And then what would you need from other sectors, let's say the communities, governments, international organizations, local organizations, donor, private sector. You think about another sector that should be involved in, and I didn't mention it there, but, and you don't have to fill up all of the sectors, but just the key sectors that you would like to collaborate with. Usually these forums are all about networking and then try to connect with different people. Unfortunately, we're in COVID-19 context, we cannot do this, but fortunately, just because of that, we're virtually meeting. So we have a lot of people in the room for many different sectors that can probably find synergy. So please just tell them how they can collaborate with you so you can involve communities and people in the work that you do. If you have any questions, just please let me know, but just kind of going back to what we were saying, how and the speakers were sharing about the challenges, like how can we equip communities, how can we support communities to collect, input, aggregate, and deploy citizen-generated data at scale. Think about these things where, well, you're answering the Google Doc. This is gonna be a live document, so you'll still have it after the session. If you have the link, you have it, and you'll have access to the different answers that people will provide there. As you know, data revolution can not only be done with data national statistic, but other kind of data and other sources should not be neglected. So citizen-generated data can offer an important complement to the more traditional data collection, as we were hearing from our speakers. Citizen generation data is not only the right thing to do, but it supports development outcomes. So just think how can you start using this and advancing this kind of data. It empowers citizens, it seeks accountability for critical service delivery, offers more texture and detail in key areas that traditional data sometimes won't provide us with that insight. So let me see. So we have a lot of different, the paragraphs is they're all the same. So please just don't answer to the same paragraph and move along to the one that you don't see anybody writing on. I'm just gonna create a bit more of those. So I have here from the CSO sector, they would like to have stronger partnerships between local grassroots organizations on data collection and using data for advocacy. From the civil society sector, also asking the private sector, especially tech companies, to make platforms affordable for CSOs and youth groups. Donors to be flexible in terms of the type of data collected, on communities to trust civil society organizations and when rolling their programs. On international organizations to build skills on research and data collection for grassroots networks to grow their capacity. Also from CSOs to other local CSOs, share data that they have. And the communities, the community needs data literacy training, and they can see the value of it as well when they produce and analyze data. For the private sector to making open data platforms available offline in their networks. Also for governments to recognize the value of for citizen-generated data to measure progress towards the SDGs. And other commitments, and to see it as a complement to their national data collection. Also, another sector that I didn't include, and it's a very good point, somebody from the Philippines that comes from the media. It's actually the media to give out information on data collection. As well as create awareness and make everyone come together. From the government side, I have a request for local civil society organizations to be more open to exchange and to involve together in raising statistical literacy in communities. for communities to involve together in raising statistic literacy as well. And then to collaborate between different agencies of the government, to share data among agencies, and then also have from international organizations build capacity and align standards for data collection. I'm just gonna give 5 more minutes for people who are still filling up the document.
Elisa, I think we're about to get cut off by Attendify. It cuts us at time, so I think we may have run out of time, but I don't know if there's any sort of closing comments and to encourage people to keep filling in that Google Doc.
Yes, just please keep filling it up, and it's going to be open for us, so even Attendify cut us off, we can make connections through there. So please put your thoughts, make synergies, partnerships, and collaborate to bring communities and young people that time to the informing decision-making process.
Great, thanks Elisa. We won't let technology stop us, and we're going to keep harnessing our power around data. So thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us, especially those of you that sat through some of the technology challenges we had at the beginning. And we look forward to, as Elisa said, continuing this conversation in that Google document and continue having these important discussions around data and power. So thanks again and enjoy the rest of the forum. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Bye.